It's just part of the process, and to try to maintain that focus throughout, as though it's the same score, right? Or the position is equal, or you're slightly worse, even though you're much better. Because winning a chess game is the hardest part. Actually converting that win is actually the hardest part, and you got to focus, because if you screw up a win, nothing feels worse than screwing up a one position, right? You could
No.
lose, but nothing feels worse than like I was just completely crushing you, and then I lost the game. Like that's just the nastiest thing to happen.
But the interesting thing is that it's not the hardest thing in terms of like an objective for an objective reason, right? It's like the things in chess which are really difficult, we wouldn't say it's like the position I had against Jan. That's not, it's like, okay, that's easy, whatever. But what ends up being difficult is that, as you mentioned, we relax. So it's not because of the position, it's because of our own mentality. And yeah, it's really tough to avoid that relaxation because you have to avoid it, but it just happens. And you don't know when, right? You might suspect that at some point you might relax. It might have happened a million times before, but you don't know when it'll happen. And then it'll just be something minor like, okay, this move looks good, and I don't spend the extra like 10 seconds, and I just missed this one detail. Um, like when it came to my game against Jan, I didn't even feel like I was relaxed, but perhaps I wasn't like fully aware of everything. Like I wasn't aware of the whole picture in terms of like I'm talking about the chessboard. So the move that everyone mentioned, which is that I just play rook d2 and I collect the h2 pawn. Actually, this move just didn't come to mind. So I thought, okay, I'll rook h1, but it looks a bit unclear. And rook d2, like rook to second rank, just didn't even enter my mind. So when everyone mentioned it, I was like, well, I just didn't think about it. It wasn't that if I thought about it and then I rejected it, that would be really weird, right? But it just didn't come to mind. So
for me, a much more, let's say, crucial, if you want to call it relaxation, though I don't think there was any relaxation at that point, was when you played bishop h7 instead of bishop c2.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit panicky. I was like down to, I was just like, let's get to time control. And you're absolutely right that I didn't calculate. I just didn't calculate. I just thought, okay, he takes, I'll my king hides somehow, and which is actually correct, but but I shouldn't even be allowing those sorts of things as the game showed. But yeah, at that point, I was just not calculating anymore. My calculation was off. It was like 1-2 moves and very, very. If someone had just told me like just from the side, like just focus, maybe this would have woken me up, and I would have like just thought, okay, it's probably the last like few moves of the game if you play them well. But it's very easy to not have that presence of mind when you're in the moment. So it kind of comes back to our like discussion of practical factors. It's really comes down to like your presence at the chessboard. Are you aware of what's going on? Do you have that like understanding, not of just the position but like, can you look at it from an outside perspective? Not like you're there in front of the chessboard, but you're looking from the side when everything just seems so much easier, right? You're looking at a game on the internet, spectating it from the side of the board. It's like, okay, everything's simple, but then you sit in front of it and suddenly your mind gets overwhelmed by a million thoughts and your judgment gets cloudy.
It's a great point, and that I write about that where I say that the coaches always call a timeout when they see it. They see it happening to the team, and they whoa, 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 come over here. Let me talk to y'all. And they scream, "What are you doing? Get back to what we were doing before, right?" But in chess, tennis is similar, right? Although I think they changed some of the coaching rules in tennis.
They're not allowing coaching anymore, right?
But look, we have to do it ourselves. We have to be in the middle of the game. I mean, it has happened to me, of course, enough times for me to be traumatized by it. But I remember one game I had against Robert Byrne, and I'm playing this game, and I'm killing him. I have black. It's 22 moves in, and I'm smoking his king. It's like, this is over. This is done. And I get up, and what do I start thinking about? This game is going to get published in the Informant. Like, I'm not even in the game anymore. You're like, man, this is amazing. This is genius. And a part of it is my own weakness, where I want to show off, right? I want to look good. I want everybody to see, look how smart I am. And I was so into that thought that I'm walking around. My friend Natasha Christensen, Larry Christensen's wife, she saw me, and then there were no engines. In 1988, she was like, "What's the matter? What's up?" I said, "Killing him. This game's gonna get published in the Informant." And she's like, "What?" And she goes to the board. She looks at it. Like, okay. She goes to sit back down. I go back down, and my very next move tosses the entire advantage. And now I have to fight for the next 30 moves to equalize the position. And then when it's finally equal, I offered him a draw. His own mindset was like, no, I'm beating you. And then he instantly blunders his queen to a 3-move combination. And so it's like, it's got so little to do with the objective truth on the board, although we believe in the objectivity and the best moves. And I know people are watching, and as much as we consult engines to find the best moves, the bottom line is, will this person find this move that they need to find, right? Will they be able to handle it correctly in the moment, under the pressure, when focus is needed, with the lights are bright? That's really where it's at. And to not lose your focus and to always be present and almost coach yourself, that's really one of the hardest things we ever have to do in chess.
Yeah, and I think
it's actually...
Go ahead, Fabio.
Sorry, Christian.
No, go ahead.
I think it's just great that you brought up the other sports, because chess is sort of unique in that way. It's like, I think the sports that are most comparable to chess are tennis, as you mentioned, and boxing, because these are one-on-ones. But in chess, the clock never stops. While in boxing, you do have those short breaks in between rounds, and in tennis, you do have breaks where perhaps you can't get coached. In boxing, I guess you can, but in tennis, I don't know the rules if you can get any coaching between. But in chess, it's not only that you can't get coaching, but your time's always running. So you always have to be ready that your opponent will make the next move, and now your time's running, and you actually have to be at the board. So you never really get a break. And it can be very difficult. Maybe you can do self-coaching, as you mentioned, after you make a move and in between moves. But you really never get a break from the game. You never get to kind of step outside yourself and just view it as a neutral third party. You're always kind of in it, and it never stops. So if the tension is building, chess can be kind of unique in that way, that you don't really get a break from the tension, from the stress of the game.
So, what I used to do is, when I realized, I realized it, and it was, what do you do about it? But when I started studying Aikido, martial arts, we would do meditation. And meditation was really a simple process. It was just breath meditation, right? You count your breaths. In for 4, out for 4, or in for 8, out for 8, as long as you could tolerate, and try to clear your mind. And it's very hard to clear your mind. When you start meditating, you realize it's extremely hard to not think about the thing you're not supposed to be thinking about. But the thing was to give yourself grace. And what that meant was that if something came in your mind and you realize, why am I thinking about that? To not feel like, oh, you're such an idiot for thinking about that. Because that's what the mind does. The mind just starts wandering. So what you'd have to do is like, okay, I was thinking about that. Now let's get back to breathing. And you got back to breathing. So what I found when I was playing was so incredibly useful was that while I was walking around, or trying to think about chess, and then something else came in my mind, then I would notice that it had come in my mind, because I had trained for that. And I would notice, oh, this other thought is there. I said, okay, that's got to go. Let's get back to just focusing on the breath. And that constant return to self-awareness, to where the center is, and to doing something relaxing, very specific to calming your mind, was incredibly useful. I'm having a flashback now to it happening during a game I beat Larry Christensen in where was it? I think it wasn't in Foxwoods. No, I think it was I don't even remember the tournament. It was Chicago Open. But at any rate, I remember beating him this game, and it was the exact same thing I did, where I was in the middle of the game and I started thinking about some random stuff. And then I just went, wait, calm yourself. get back to the board, get back to thinking, not about the position, but just calming my mind. And that was extremely effective. And I think that that's something, when you have to coach yourself, you have to find your way of doing it.